Every morning, the countdown begins for the markets with meticulous research and analysis designed to help you capitalize on the trading day. Beaming live from the CNBC TV18 Motilal Oswal studio.
Good morning. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. We are coming to you live from the CNBC TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Nigel and Reema. Guys, hi. Morning.
Hi, good morning. Another heavy day in terms of Trump news, in terms of Trump tweets on social media.
Well, that's right. He doesn't stop.
Lots of truths on Truth Social.
Lots of truths. Which one stood out for you? Pick one.
There's actually so much, right? I mean, it's not just about Greenland or this or that. It's around defense, it's home builders. A lot of them in the US, but I think there's enough implications for outside the US as well.
Well, we saw stock price moves also. Like BlackRock, for instance, fell sharply on the back of that.
Well, that's right. And coming back home, Maharashtra government has announced that on the 15th, it'll be a holiday.
What about for us?
Yeah, we'll have to wait for that. But I was just thinking aloud, if the markets have to be shut on the 15th and then keep it open. I mean, on budget day, I guess we'll be open anyways.
Comp off.
I guess so. But thinking, but maybe, I don't know.
So the key which determines, right? I mean, basically the holiday has to be declared under something called the Negotiable Instruments Act. That has to happen. That has not happened. I spoke with an exchange official this morning. So they're also waiting to see if it'll indeed happen.
But it's comp off idea. That appeals to reason.
Leave the holidays to me. Okay, well, let's just quickly take it from the top then in terms of what you need as far as the info is concerned. I mean, price action, not too much, but news flow, I mean, pro-max, right? You look at S&P down about 1/3%, and indices actually sold off. Market sold off into close. Nasdaq was also up a little bit more. That also sold off. But, I mean, of course, there was a bit of a positive close. 10-year yield, 3 basis points lower, 4.15%. The employment data set, which is the JOLTS data, the private payrolls number, the ADP, both were weakish. Oil prices are down about 0.6%. We're at about 60. And this is what is new. President Trump essentially saying that U.S. will receive sanctioned Venezuelan oil and continue controlling sales indefinitely. Well, that is... I mean, I think at some level, when we heard yesterday, for example, same time we were talking about those 30-50 million barrels of oil, and I was asking, well, why 30 and 50? I mean, it's a fraction of... not that they should, but it just seemed a little odd. And now, of course, more clarity coming through and with that sort of, indefinite statement from President Trump. Now, home builders fell. Blackstone was down 10% intraday. President Trump essentially saying that he would ban large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. I mean, there's a long post saying that, well, the ultimate American dream is to buy a home. It's become unaffordable, and kind of sort of, turning the blame to many of these financial investors who are, I think, some of the largest owners of real estate in the US and other parts of the world as well. Now, defense stocks were the other pack. They were hit. So Northrop was down 5.5%. RTX was down 2.5%. And here, Trump essentially is saying that he's going to target dividends and buybacks in the sector. Remember, in that speech President Trump gave day before yesterday, he said, well, I want defense companies to increase production rapidly. They should be able to deliver on demand, not just for the US, but for our customers around the world as well. And I think this is in line with that kind of thinking. So, again, I mean, I think post close trade, stocks did recover a little bit, but that's, of course, the close. Other single stock news, Warner Brothers rejecting takeover offer from Paramount and encouraging its shareholders to accept and stick with the Netflix deal. Intel was up 6%, and there's a new product lineup which was unveiled at that CES conference in Vegas. By the way, there's also that new NVIDIA chip, and we can talk more about that. Big implications if, of course, the chip is all that NVIDIA says it is for a variety of things, and we'll come to that. Now, U.S. Senator, an influential senator, Lindsey Graham, is essentially posted on Twitter, and he's essentially said that Trump has okayed the new Russia sanctions bill. The senator said that there is bipartisan support for this, and this bill will be aimed to punish those countries who buy cheap Russian oil. This, of course, I think will have to go through both houses, the Senate and the House. But, I mean, the way the tweet has been worded, they say, well, there's bipartisan support on both sides of the aisle for this bill. The question is, and by the way, if you read that tweet, there is mention of China, there is mention of India as well. The question is, what can this bill now do that has not already been done, or what does it allow them to do, what they can't do now? So we'll have to see how this really plays out. But as I said, this will now, of course, this is a legislative. This is not under emergency powers. This is a bill, so it'll have to be cleared, and that will take perhaps some time. I'll just leave you with some levels. Yesterday, of course, the market did recover quite a bit from the day's low. But, you know, that's the one number we've kind of stuck with for the last 4 or 5 days, and we've basically been closing the gap. At yesterday's close, the Nifty is about 100 points away from the 20-day. 26,040 is that level. The Nifty Bank, 59,373. There is a little bit more distance on the Nifty Bank. The Bank Nifty, of course, has done a little better as compared to the Nifty. So that's the picture. And the GIFT Nifty gives you a quick sense of how we're likely to open before we move any further. 55 points down. Nigel has walked across with the F&O stats, the delivery, the positioning. Nigel, over to you.
Well, that's right. You know, in yesterday's trading session, again, we ended in the red. The last 3 trading sessions have been quite subdued. The bulls will be hoping that this 26,000 odd mark does get defended. In fact, it actually could provide a good entry opportunity because the trend still seems to be up. Getting to the flows first, the DIs, they are buying outweigh the FI selling, though the FI selling has picked up to around 1,500 crores. Net, though, institutions were buyers to the tune of close to around 1,300 crores. What did the FIs do in the futures space? Well, they added short positions. Both, if you look at it, on index futures itself, some shorts were added and some longs were unwound. And if you look at it on the individual stocks as well, we did see some kind of addition on the short side on stock futures. That, though, will be more of an arbitrage just taking place. On the index futures, though, the short positioning, that had come down to around 87%. That's back at around 90%. Shorts in the system, you need some good news. These shorts will have to run for cover. But when does that good news come? That's going to be important. In addition to them adding short positions, they also went ahead and they wrote some index options, particularly on the call side. Close to around 90,000 contracts were written on the call side. That's in the ratio of close to around 3 calls were written for every 2 puts that were written in yesterday's trade. And the calls that were active, 26,200 call, 26,150 call. They've been active the previous couple of trading sessions as well. And yesterday was no different, with the premiums coming down now to around 77 as well as 100 rupees or thereabouts, which is telling you that at higher levels, the bears believe they can defend those levels. So, you know, to put in a level out there, that 26,350, 26,400, that's going to be a bit of a congestion zone. And the recent high, that becomes your reference point in terms of a resistance. Support, though, I believe that this is the level that should, in all probability, hold out. And from here, you could probably expect a bounce as well, closer to around the 26,000, closer to around the 26,040 odd mark. That's where the 20 DMA comes in as well. HDFC Bank, that suddenly lost its way a little bit. In the last few trading sessions, actually dipped below both, the 20 as well as the 50 DMA. So that one, the 20 DMA is around 990 rupees. It's holding at around 950 rupees, but the stock has been under some pressure. So you'll want HDFC Bank to find its form because that's the largest constituent on the Nifty Bank. And yes, last couple of trading sessions, actually the Nifty Bank has managed to fight back without HDFC Bank. But you'll want this big boy to participate. So I'll keep an eye out on HDFC Bank. The other stock that I'm looking at is LG Electronics. Remember, it had a solid listing day. But today, the 3-month shareholder lock-in does end, which is close to 2% of the equity. So that's the stock that I'll be keeping on my radar. Still up big time from the IPO price, but it's come off actually from the listing day highs as well of around 1,700 rupees. That's a stock to track.
Thank you very much for that. 1450 on LG Electronics. Highs were closer to 1,700. And that pop pretty much happened on day one in the initial phase because the valuations relative to peers was attractive. So there was a valuation arbitrage which played out. For our own markets, we've been down for the last 3 consecutive trading sessions. Yesterday, the Nifty managed a little bit of a pullback towards the end of the trading session, but still ended below the 26,150 mark. We saw selling by the FIs, both in the cash market and in the futures and options markets. That is weighing, and today is the sensex weekly expiry. Let's quickly just take stock of what's happening across Asia, and the color right now appears, it's a mixed picture. The Japanese markets are down about 0.5%, but the Taiwanese markets are holding up in the green. The Korean markets continue to rally. Yesterday as well, Korea was higher, and today it's got a gain of over 1%. Straits Times is on the flatter side. It's a mixed picture that we have across Asia this morning, but the SGX Nifty is suggesting, GIFT Nifty, is suggesting a downbeat start, a lower start of about 50 odd points. We've also had so many accidents, right, every single day, which is pulling down the index. So, that's not helping.